mostly, you know, those strips that you guys had in here, got them a little bit wet. So they're right now kind of just all, you know, separate little pieces. You don't have to use the whole bag. You can kind of work on this as you go, but you do need to wedge them just to have some consistent pieces. So just watch me for right now. You want to wedge them up a little bit, and remember, wedging means you are using the heel of your hand and you're kind of pushing away from yourself, and the clay slides on your canvas, and then you rock it back a little bit and you push away from yourself. So I'm kind of twisting toward myself, twisting it back, and it ends up kind of being a little bit of a spiral on the side, and then I go the other direction. Now, the more you wedge, if this makes sense to you, the more you wedge, you're wedging on dry canvas. Your hands are drier than the clay, so you're going to be sucking moisture out of this. So you want to be efficient when you wedge, not wedge too much. And then your clay is ready to start to sculpt. So it kind of depends on what kinds of designs you decided to do. If you decided to actually sculpt like a little object, you might at this point just kind of twist off pieces of clay, or use your wire and cut off pieces of clay. Maybe I'm going to do like a little pinch bowl or something. So I'm going to use this pinching method to create an element, kind of a rounded element that I'm going to put on. Maybe I'm going to do like a flower on the top of my lid, and I need to have some kind of base to start off. So you might pinch something. You might decide that the portions you're going to add on are more like a coil. So you might roll out a coil a little bit. The key here is anything that you add on, the rule of thumb in clay is it should not be thicker than your thumb. So I can't take a solid piece of clay like this and make a ball and decide I'm going to put that on as the handle for the lid. It's way too thick. Okay, that is not going to dry. I could slice it in half maybe and use half that thickness as a handle, put that on the lid. I could do that kind of thing. When I have coils like this, I can sculpt them, I can pinch them, I can make them into, you know, like the head of an animal or the body of an animal. I can pinch out some legs, I can add on some things to it. I could take pieces and flatten them out into slabs, or I can even use my roller and roll out a thin slab, probably thinner than what we made for the walls. Kind of depends on what you want to do. And then, you know, I can draw, like, let's say I want to do, maybe I want to do a flower and I want some leaf shape. So I might draw a leaf shape into this, use my knife to cut it out. And then I can pinch it, I can fold it, I can give it some more shape so it's a little bit more sculptural, and I can attach that. So there are a bunch of different ways to work with the clay to add things on. I think I'm going to add on a bunch of circles. So I cut out a bunch of circles from a slab, and after I cut them all out, I decided they were all too thick, so I'm going to have to cut them out and make them and cut them again. But another way that you could do something like that is I could take a coil, and I get a nice even coil thickness. I'm like trying to roll on camera, which is not really giving me the room I need. Remember, when you roll coils, you roll the length, the whole circumference of the coil, and you move your hands apart, and that stretches it. If I want to make sure things are even, I've got a ruler. So let's say I look at this coil down here, and I'm going to make slices that are about 1/2 inch. So this is a way of kind of measuring the volume of the clay without weighing it or something. And then let's say I take these and I make each of these into a sphere. And because they all got cut from the same length, I have some consistency. So when I make these spheres, they all end up being about the same size because they are made with the same amount of clay. So just a quick way to kind of get some consistency. Then if I wanted to do the dots, I can flatten them out. My thumb. And again, get some consistency if I do this in a consistent way, which I guess is. Okay, so now I've got dots that way instead of slicing them out. So a bunch of different ways to work. You can roll coils if you want to do some vines or something like that. So again, make sure you're wedging your pieces. Make sure you're not working too thickly, so not something that's too thick, too much bigger than your thumb as far as thickness goes. When you join things, you want to make sure you have really strong connections. So oh, yikes. Oh, sometimes I have to be really careful I don't say really bad words. All right. Okay. So I've got my piece here, and like I said, I'm going to work on that board so I can rotate around. So what I might want to do before I get started is I want to do all these little dots, but I want them to kind of be in, a certain row or a certain space. I can, let's say, use the ruler and measure out where I want them to go. So let's say I'm going to have them all go like at this 2-inch mark. I can really lightly kind of make a line across here. So I know I'm going to make them all go along that line, or maybe I want them to follow a curved line. So I make that mark on my surface so I know what I'm working with. And again, I'm working with this in my hand so you guys can see it, but I would have this sitting on the board when I work. Very important that you score. So I'm going to score probably all along this little line where I want these dots to go. I'm going to score the back of all these little dots. And then apply slip. Which again, at this point is kind of common sense for you guys, but just do it real quick. And then I want to really make sure, like I can, I've got the paper or the plastic bag is still inside, so that's going to give me some support. But if I'm applying pressure to one side, I really need to make sure that I'm supporting it on the other side. And just scored and slipped is okay, but probably not going to keep this little button on here from popping out. So I'm going to need to take a little tool of some sort and just go in here and just kind of clean up that seam where the two come together a little bit so I don't have a line there. Okay, see that, guys? So I don't have that line there. I'm going to come in with this and just kind of smooth that over so I've got a nice clean edge. So I'm going to go ahead and continue these this way. Then I'm thinking of like layering in more detail by coming back in with maybe a pencil and adding another dot. I might test that out on some of my other pieces and see what I think that looks like. After I get them attached, I think I'm going to come in with a pencil eraser and put a dot in there, and then maybe come in with my paintbrush and add some more dots around the edges. So that instead of a plain circle, I'm going to have something with some more pattern. I'm going to do this decoration once it's on here. Okay, so scoring and slipping and securing, making sure that you're going to smooth over the seams, making sure you support the opposite side when you are applying pressure. That's key also. Layer in the details. And then also make sure that you go back at some point and refine those edges, because anything that is sharp feeling or has a hard edge is only get harder and sharper as it gets fired. So that goes for the lid too. You can put things on the lid. You can have your design carry up over the side of your cylinder up onto the lid. So there are lots of variables here. Okay. So I think at this point we are ready to go for independent work, right? Let me see. Oops. Let me see what I got going on here. Sorry, my driving skills are failing me right now. There we go. There we go. Okay, so you guys have the rest of this class period. Here's my little techniques and tips to work independently to add these on. If you have any questions, you know, pop into the Meet, turn your camera on, show me what you're working on if you have questions or concerns. If things are cracking a little bit, you can wedge some slip into your clay. Clay is in good shape by now. You don't want to apply too much water or anything to your slip or to your clay at this point. Whatever's in the bag should be working okay for you. You're going to keep your extra scraps because we have one more project that we're going to do with the clay, and that's going to be using like all the rest of the scraps for that. Okay. You guys have any questions in the Meet? All right, then if you have questions, pop back in. Otherwise, I'm going to leave you to it. Let's get these pictures turned in.